Hi everyone, so this is the next tutorial in my Crochet Animals series, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the rabbits. So here I have my two rabbits which I have named Ruthie and Ralph. So for these rabbits you will need a 4mm crochet hook and DK weight yarn. So in the description box below this video, I will leave links to the rest of the tutorials in my Crochet Animal series, so for all of the different animals and their outfits, and any outfit will fit any of the animals. And in the description box I will also leave a link to where you can find the written patterns. So thank you very much for watching, and please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more crochet videos. You want to start off by making the body, the arms and legs, and the body, arms and legs of all of the different animals in my Crochet Animals series are exactly the same, and I have a tutorial on my channel already showing you how to make those different parts, and I will leave a link to that tutorial in the description box below this video. So you want to go to that tutorial and make the body, arms and legs, and if you have the written pattern it will all be written out on there for you. So you want to make the body, arms and legs, and then once you have done that you can come back to this tutorial and make the head and the ears. So we're going to start off by making the head. So to begin the head you want to start off by making a magic circle. So to do a magic circle, take your yarn and take your finger and wrap the yarn around your finger once, and you then want to wrap the yarn back over your finger to create a cross, like that. You then want to take your crochet hook and go underneath the first loop of the cross, and you may need to pull it up a little bit, but go underneath this first loop, and then using your crochet hook pick up the second loop of the cross and pull it through, and you can then take your finger out, and there you have a magic circle, and we are ready to begin round one. So to begin round one you want to chain one, and this chain one does not count as a stitch, this just locks our magic circle into place. So now for round one we are going to do 7 single crochets into the magic circle, so 7 single crochets. So you want to go down into the magic circle and yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. So there we have 1 single crochet, and now you want to go back down into the circle and do a second one in the exact same way, and then a third and a fourth, and keep going until you have 7. So like that. So there I have done 7 single crochets into the magic circle, and now to finish off round one we need to close up the magic circle. So to do that you want to take this end or this tail here and simply pull it nice and tight. So pull it as tight as you can, and that will close it up. And there we have finished round one, and we're ready to move on to round two. So for round two we are going to do 2 single crochets into each stitch. So you want to start off by going down into the first single crochet from last round, and if you're not sure which stitch to go into then count back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you want to go down into that stitch and work your first single crochet into that one. But before we move on and work our second single crochet into that stitch, you want to take a stitch marker or a piece of yarn in a different colour and place it into that single crochet that we just worked, and that will mark the first single crochet of round two. So just like the rest of the rabbit, we are not going to be using any slip stitches throughout the head, so we're going to be working in continuous rounds, and then we're going to use a stitch marker to mark the first single crochet of each round. So you'll place a stitch marker into the first single crochet of the round, work all the way around, and when you reach the stitch marker again, we know we have come to the end of the round and we can move on to the next one. So work one single crochet into that first stitch and place a stitch marker into the first single crochet of the round, and then you want to go back down into the same stitch and work a second single crochet into that one, and now do 2 both into this next stitch, and then 2 into the next, and the next, and just keep repeating that for round 2. So I'm just coming to the end of round 2, so I have worked that all the way around and I have reached my stitch marker, and at the end of that round you should have 14 single crochets. And now we can move on to round 3. So to begin round 3, you want to remove your stitch marker, and in this round we're going to do 2 single crochets into one stitch and then just 1 single crochet into the next. So go down into the first stitch and do your first single crochet, and then you want to take your stitch marker and place it into that first single crochet of the round, and then go back down into that same stitch and work a second single crochet into that one, and you then want to go into the next stitch and do 1 single crochet into that one, and now repeat that again. Do 2 single crochets both into the next stitch, and then do just 1 single crochet into the next, and repeat that all the way around. 2 1 2 1 2 1. So I have finished working that all the way around for round 3, and at the end of that round we should have 21 single crochets. And now we can move on to round 4. So remove your stitch marker, and now this round follows the same pattern as last round, but instead of doing 2 single crochets into one stitch and then 1 into the next, we're going to do 2 single crochets into one stitch and then 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So we're doing 2 1 1 2 1 1 all the way around. So go down into this first stitch here and do 2 single crochets, placing a stitch marker into the first one that you work. So like that. And now do 1 single crochet into the next stitch and 1 into the next. And now repeat that again. Do 2 into the next stitch and then 1 into each of the next 2 stitches, and just keep repeating that all the way around. So there we have come to the end of round 4, and at the end of that round you should have 28 single crochets. And now we can move on to round 5. So remove your stitch marker, and this round follows the same pattern again, but in this round we're going to do 2 single crochets into the first stitch, placing your stitch marker into the first single crochet that you worked. So I'm going to place my stitch marker into the very first one that I worked there, and now do 1 single crochet into the next stitch and 1 into the second one along, and then 1 into the third one along. So there we have 2 1 1 1, and you want to keep repeating that all the way around for round 5. So I'm going to do 2 single crochets both into this next stitch, and then 1 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, and then just keep repeating that. So there I have finished working that all the way around for round 5, and at the end of this round you should have 35 single crochets. And now we can move on to round 6. So remove your stitch marker, and this round follows the exact same pattern, but in this round we're going to do 2 single crochets into 1 stitch and then 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches, all the way around for round 6. So we're doing 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. So do 2 into the first stitch and place a stitch marker into the first one that you work. Like that, and then do 1 single crochet into the first stitch, 1 into the second one along, 1 into the third, and then do 1 into the fourth, and just keep repeating that 2, 1, 1, 1. Finished working that for round 6, and at the end of that round you should have 42 single crochets, and it's really important that you have that number at this point, so I would recommend going back and just double checking that you do have 42, and if you do we can move on to round 7. So we are now on to round 7, and for the next 5 rounds, so for rounds 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11, so 5 rounds, you just want to do 1 single crochet into each stitch. So to begin round 7, you'll remove the stitch marker and do 1 single crochet into that first stitch, and then place the stitch marker back into the first single crochet of the round, and then do 1 single crochet into each stitch until you reach where you started, and then move on to the next round. So remove the stitch marker, do 1 single crochet into the first stitch, place a stitch marker into the first one, and then just do 1 single crochet into every single stitch. And in each round you should find that you have 42 single crochets. So you want to do that for 5 rounds. So I'm going to remove my stitch marker, do 1 single crochet into the first stitch here, placing the stitch marker into that first one that I worked. And it's really important to always remember to use the marker, as if you forget to use it for 1 or 2 rounds, it can be really tricky to work out where you are. So do 1 single crochet into that first stitch, and then 1 into the next and the next, and just keep doing this all the way around. So I have finished working those rounds, so I have come to the end of round 11. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11 rounds in total, and at the end of round 11 I still have 42 single crochets around. And now we can move on to round 12. So remove your stitch marker, and round 12 is going to be our first decrease round. So what you want to do is start off by doing 1 single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches. So we're going to do 1 into the first one and place your stitch marker into this stitch, and then we're going to do 1 single crochet into the next stitch and 1 into the third one along, and then the fourth. So like I said, do 1 single crochet into each of the first 4 stitches, and now over the next 2 stitches we are going to do a stitch called 2 single crochets together. So when we do 2 single crochets together, we are doing 2 single crochets, 1 into each stitch, but we're not going to complete either of them, and then we're going to complete them both together at the same time. So we're turning 2 stitches into 1. So we use this stitch lots and lots throughout the body of our rabbit, and now we are going to use it in the head. So you want to go into the first stitch and yarn over and pull up a loop, but do not complete this single crochet and move on to the next one. Go into the next stitch and yarn over and pull up a loop. So start to work a second single crochet, and there we have 2 incomplete single crochets, and you should have 3 loops on your hook and yarn over and pull through all 3. And there we have worked 2 single crochets together. And you want to repeat this all the way around for round 12. You want to do 4 single crochets and then 2 single crochets together over the next 2 stitches all the way around. So do 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. Like that, and then do 2 single crochets together over the next 2, and just keep repeating that. So there I have finished working that all the way around for round 12. So I did 2 single crochets together over the last 2 stitches, and at the end of that round you should have 35 stitches. And now we can move on to round 13. So round 13 is just a simple round of plain single crochet. So we're just going to do 1 single crochet into every single stitch. So remove the stitch marker and go down into the first stitch here and do 1 single crochet, and then place a stitch marker back into that stitch and just do 1 single crochet into each of these stitches. So I have finished working that for round 13, and at the end of that round you should still have 35 single crochets. And now we can move on to round 14. So to begin this round you want to remove your stitch marker, and to start round 14 we are going to do 14 single crochets, or 1 single crochet into each of the first 14 stitches. So you want to go down into the first stitch here and work a single crochet, placing the stitch marker into that first one as usual, and then you want to do 1 into the next stitch, and then a 3rd and a 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and keep going until you have 14 single crochets. So like that. So there I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 14 single crochets. And now for the middle of this round, we are going to do 3 sets of 2 single crochets together. So you want to go into the next stitch and start to work a single crochet, and then start to work 1 into the next stitch and yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So there we have our first set of 2 single crochets together, and now you want to do the same thing over the next 2 stitches. And then do a 3rd set over the next 2. like that. So there we have done 2 single crochets together 3 times for the middle of this round. And now to finish off round 14, you want to do 1 single crochet into each stitch until the end, and you should find that that is 15 single crochets. So we're going to do 1 into the next, and 1 single crochet into the next, and keep going until you have 15. So there I have finished working those single crochets, and I have come to the end of round 14, and at the end of that round you should have 32 stitches. And now we can move on to round 15. So to begin this round you want to remove your stitch marker, and this round is very similar to last round, but we're going to start off this round by working 13 single crochets. So go into the first stitch and do 1 single crochet, placing a stitch marker into that first one, and then do 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and keep going until you have 13. So there I have worked those single crochets, and we have reached the middle of round 15, and we are going to do the same thing as last round. We're going to do 3 sets of 2 single crochets together for the middle of this round. So do your first set over the next 2 stitches, and then do a second set of 2 single crochets together, and then do a third set, like that. And now you want to finish off this round by doing single crochets to the end, and you should find that that is 13. So do 1 single crochet into each of the last 13 stitches. So there I have finished working that all the way around for round 15, and you can see we are starting to get the shape of our head here. So this section where we did the 2 single crochets together will become the little dip in the face here, so where it dips down and we get the eyes. And now we can move on to round 16. Oh, and at the end of that round you should have had 29 stitches. And now for round 16, we're just going to do 1 single crochet into every single stitch. So remove your stitch marker, work 1 single crochet into that first stitch, placing the stitch marker back into that stitch, and then do 1 single crochet into every single stitch around, and you should find that that is 29. So I have worked that all the way around for round 16, and now we can move on to round 17. So to begin this round you want to remove your stitch marker, and for round 17 we're going to do 1 single crochet into 1 stitch, then 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets together over the next 2 stitches. So work 1 single crochet into the first stitch here, and then do 1 into the next, and then work 2 single crochets together over the next 2. So like that. And now repeat that again. 1, 1, and then 2 together, and we're just going to keep repeating that all the way around. So I'm just coming to the end of round 17, so I did 2 single crochets together to finish there, and you should find that you have 1 stitch left at the end of the round, and we're going to go down into this last stitch, so the very last stitch at the end, and work 1 single crochet. And at the end of that round you should have 22 stitches. And now before we move on to round 17, we are going to add some stuffing to the head of our rabbit. So you want to pull your yarn out and your hook, and then remove your stitch marker, and you want to remove the stitch marker as this can get tangled up in the stuffing. So I just pull out a long loop here so that we won't get lost and we won't lose our stitch. And then you need to make sure that this end from where you made the magic circle at the beginning has been pulled through to the outside here. And then you want to take some stuffing, so I'm using the same stuffing as I used for the body and the arms and the legs. So this is just polyester toy stuffing, and I'm going to add it to the head. So there I have started stuffing the head, and you don't want to add too much as then it will be really hard to work the rest of the head. But the most important thing is just to make sure that you get stuffing in the back here, as if you go any further it will be really hard to get it to the back of that head. And now we can move on to round 18. So round 18 is just a simple round of single crochet. So we're just going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch. So you want to go into the first stitch. So you want to go down into this first stitch here and do 1 single crochet and place the stitch marker into that stitch. And then do 1 into the next, and as with the body I like to kind of push the stuffing down behind the stitch, go into the stitch and work a single crochet, and just do 1 into each stitch all the way around for round 18. So I have finished working that all the way along for round 18, and at the end of this round you should have 22 single crochets. And then I went ahead and added a little bit more stuffing to the head, so you just want to add a tiny bit more stuffing just to stuff that round. And now we can move on to round 19. So to begin this round you want to remove your stitch marker, and round 19 is going to be another decrease round. So in this round we're going to do just 1 single crochet into 1 stitch, and then 2 single crochets together over the next 2 stitches. So we're doing 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets together, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets together all the way around. So go into the first stitch here and do 1 single crochet, placing the stitch marker into that one. And now we're going to do 2 single crochets together over these next 2 stitches. And just keep repeating that. So I'm just coming to the end of round 19, and you should find that you have 1 stitch left at the end, and you want to do 1 single crochet into this last stitch. So finish off by doing 1 single crochet at the end, and at the end of that round you should have 15 stitches. And now you want to go ahead and add a little bit more stuffing to the head. So I'm going to add some more stuffing here. So like that. So there I have just stuffed that round, and now we can move on to round 20, which is the final round of our rabbit head. So to begin this round you want to remove your stitch marker, and we are going to work sets of 2 single crochets together all the way around. So we are going to do that 7 times. So we're going to do 2 single crochets together 7 times. So you want to go down and work 2 single crochets together over these first 2 stitches. And if you like, you could place the stitch marker back into that stitch, but I'm not going to, I'm just going to count. So there I have 1, And now work 2 single crochets together over the next 2. Like that. So there we have our second set, and then do your 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. So there I have come to the end of round 20, so I did 2 single crochets together all the way around, and you should find that you have 1 stitch left at the end, and we are going to leave that stitch empty, so we are not going to work into that last stitch. And there we have finished our rabbit's head. So round 20 is the last round. So at the end of this round, you want to add a final bit of stuffing to the top here, and that can be quite tricky, but I kind of just use the end of my crochet hook to kind of dig it down into there. So take a yarn needle like this, and then take that end and thread the end through the needle, and we are going to weave the end in and out of these stitches at the end. So you want to go down into the next stitch with your needle and pull the yarn through. And then you want to come in from the inside into the next stitch and try to make sure you're not picking up any stuffing, and come out this way, then go in through the next stitch, and then come in from the inside into the next stitch, and do this all the way around. So there I have reached where I started, and then the final thing that you want to do is pull this end tight. So pull it as tight as you can, and that will close up the end there. And then you want to secure this end, so kind of go in and try to make sure you don't pick up any stuffing, and then out to the other side and pull this through, and then come in and out to the other side and pull it through, and just secure that end nicely. And then you want to weave that end into the inside of the head, so kind of weave it down and then pull it tight and cut it off so that it ends up in the inside of the head. And then you want to do the same thing for this end at the back. You can weave this in, and before you weave it in, make sure you pull it nice and tight. And there we have finished our rabbit's head. So at this point now, you should have the body, arms, legs and head. And now we can move on to the ears, and that is the final part. So we are now going to move on to making the ears. And to start the ears, you want to begin by making a slip knot. And when you make your slip knot, you need to make sure that you leave a long tail end, as you can then use this to sew the ears to the head. So you want to take the yarn and take your finger and wrap the yarn around your finger twice. Then take the first loop and pull it over the second loop, and then take the second loop and pull it all the way over your finger. You then want to take your crochet hook, go in through this space and pull tight. And there we have a slip knot. And now we are going to make our foundation chain, and we are going to chain 7. So chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 like that. And now we can move on to round 1. So round 1 of the ears is just a simple round of single crochet, and we're going to work our first single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So here is the first chain from the hook, and here is the second chain, and you want to go down into this chain and work 1 single crochet, and now do 1 into the next chain. Oops. Do 1 single crochet into the next chain and 1 into the next, and do this all the way along. So like that. And at the end of that round, you should have worked 6 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we can move on to round 2. So to begin round 2, you want to chain 1 and turn, and this chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So we're going to go down into this first stitch here and work 1 single crochet, and then we're going to do 1 into the next stitch and 1 into the next. And you want to keep doing this 1 single crochet into each stitch until you have 1 stitch left at the end. So stop when you have just 1 stitch left. So there I have 1 stitch left at the end here, and into this last stitch we are going to do 2 single crochets. So go down into this last stitch at the very end and make sure that you're not counting that chain 1 that we skipped at the beginning of round 1 as a stitch. You want to go down into the last single crochet and work 2 single crochets both into this one. And there we have finished round 2. And now for the next 3 rounds, so for rounds 3, 4 and 5, we're just going to do the same thing as round 2. So we're going to chain 1 and turn, and that never counts as a stitch. And then you want to do 1 single crochet into each stitch until you have just 1 stitch left at the end. And then you want to work 2 single crochets into that last stitch. So work that all the way along for round 3, then 4, then 5. And in each round you are increasing by 1. So you should have 1 extra stitch in each round. So there I have come to the end of round 5, and at the end of that round you should have 10 single crochets. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And now we can move on to round 6. So for the next 4 rounds, so for rounds 6, 7, 8 and 9, we're just going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch. So to begin each round, you want to chain 1 and turn, and that chain 1 as usual never counts as a stitch, and then just do 1 single crochet into each stitch along. And in each round you do, that should be 10. So we're going to do that all the way along for rounds 6, 7, 8 and 9. So there I have finished working those rounds. So I have done 4 rounds of plain single crochet. And now if you wanted longer rabbit ears, now this is a point where you would need to add extra rounds. So you could add 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 extra rounds of plain single crochet if you wanted the ears to be longer. But for the regular sized ears, the ones that I have made, then you just do the 4 rounds. So there we have come to the end of round 9, and we can move on to round 10. So to begin this round, chain 1 and turn, and we're going to start off by working 2 single crochets together over the first 2 stitches. So work 2 single crochets together as we have done lots and lots of times before over the first 2 stitches there. And now you want to do 1 single crochet into each stitch until you have just 2 stitches left at the end. So we're going to go down into the next stitch and do 1 single crochet, and then do 1 into the next, and keep going until you have 2 stitches left. So there I have 1 and 2 stitches left, and we're going to do 2 single crochets together over these last 2 stitches at the end, like that. And now we can move on to round 11. So to begin round 11, chain 1 and turn. And round 11 is just a plain round of single crochet. So you just want to do 1 single crochet into every single stitch. So like that. So there I have come to the end of round 11. And now for the rest of our ears, we are just going to repeat the last 2 rounds that we just did. So rounds 10 and 11, again and again and again. So we're going to repeat each of those 2 rounds 3 times. So for rounds 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and 17, you just want to repeat 10 and 11. So that will be 3 repeats of each round. So we're going to move on to round 12, which is a repeat of round 10. So you want to chain 1 and turn, and then do 2 single crochets together over the first 2 stitches, and then 1 single crochet into each stitch until 2 stitches from the end. And then do 2 single crochets together over the last 2. Like that. And now for round 13, we're just going to do a repeat of round 11. So chain 1 and turn, and do 1 single crochet into each stitch. So like that. So there we have done our first repeat of those 2 rounds. So you want to do that 2 more times, and that should take you to the end of round 17. So there I have come to the end of round 17. So in round 16, as there were just 4 stitches in the previous round, you will have just done 2 sets of 2 single crochets together with no single crochets in between. And then round 17, you just do 2 single crochets. And now for the very last round of the ear, you want to chain 1 and turn, and then just do 2 single crochets together over these 2 stitches. So we are turning our 2 stitches that we have left into 1. And there we have finished our ear. So now you can fasten off, so pull your yarn out and your hook and cut your yarn. And there we have finished our rabbit's ear. And you want to go ahead and make a second one in the exact same way. And they are pretty small, but if you wanted them longer, like I said, you just do more rounds of plain single crochet in the middle in that round 6 to 9 section. So then you want to go ahead and make a second ear. So then once you have made both of your ears, we have made all of the different parts of our rabbit. So we have made the body, arms, legs, head and ears, and we can now move on to sewing them together. So you want to start off by sewing the arms to the body. So if you have a look at my rabbit here, if you have a look at the rabbit here, this is Ruthie. So I have the arm sewn quite high up on the body here. So you want to sew it quite high up, both arms on either side, using a yarn needle and then the end from where you fastened off. And then you want to add the head. So add the head on top of the body and the arms. And you can use another piece of yarn in the same colour as the rabbit to sew that nice and securely to the body and the head. So look at my join there. You want to sew it and make sure that it's lined up so that the middle of the head is lined up with the arm here. And you need to make sure that you're sewing the head on the right way up. So if you have a look at the head, we have this dip here, which is where the eyes go, and this needs to be on the top. So the flatter section is on the bottom. So sew it that way around. And then you want to add the legs to the body. So sew the legs to the bottom of the body using the yarn needle as well, and the end from where you fastened off. And then the last thing that you need to do is add the ears. So we have 2 ears, and you want to add these on last so that you can get the positioning right. So we have 2 ears, and we're going to sew 1 to either side of the head. And like I said, they should be the last thing that you sew on so that you can get the positioning right. And there are lots of different ways that you could sew these ears on. You could sew them however way you want. So you could just sew them flat to the side of the ear like this. But what I did was I added a little fold at the top, and that kind of gave them this curled effect. So to do that, you want to take the head, and then we're going to sew them along the flat side. So the point is at the bottom, and then the flat side where we started is going to be attached to the head. And what I did was I took the ears like this and led them where I wanted them to be, and then I kind of folded this edge here over like that, and that gave me a little bit of a curl. And then I just sewed my ear like this, folded in half. So folded in half along the top, I sewed that to the head, and that gave me the curl. But you could do this whatever way you like. So I'm going to go into the opposite side here and pull it through to give me the fold, and then I'm going to come to the head and make sure it will be attached to the body at this point. Place it where you want it to go, and then go in through the head, then out into the ear, then to the head to the ear, to the head to the ear, and that will sew it nice and securely. And then you can weave that end into the inside. And then once you have sewn all of your rabbit together, the last thing we need to do is add the face. So this is how I like to do the face, and there are lots of different ways you could add the face, but this is the way I like to do it. So if you have watched some of my other crochet animal tutorials, so some of the other animals in the series, you will know how to do this face already. So I have two little eyes, and then this nose, which is the same as my lambs. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So to add the face, you will need 3 scraps of black yarn, one for the nose and one for each eye, and then you will need a yarn needle like this, and you want to take one of the pieces of yarn and thread it through the needle, and then we're going to take the face and we're going to start off by adding the eyes. So the eyes sit in the center of the face, in the little brow here, so in the dip, and you can add them wherever you like. So I'm going to go around about here, and you want to go in through one stitch and then up and out of the stitch above and pull the yarn through, and make sure that you leave an end to weave in later. And then you want to come back around into the same stitch you started, and then out at the same stitch, and be very careful to make sure that you're not picking up any stuffing, and pull this end through, and then come back around into the same stitch again, and then out through the same stitch. And the second one's always a little bit trickier. It's always kind of easy to pick up some stuffing with this one, and pull the yarn through like that. So there I have done that twice, but you could do that a third time if you wanted the eye to be bigger. And then what you want to do is go in through the same stitch and then come out somewhere else in the head. So like that. So come out somewhere far away in the head and pull the yarn through. And then you want to do the same thing with this end here. Thread the yarn through the needle, go in through the same stitch, out somewhere far away, and pull it through. And there we have finished the eye, and now you can kind of pull the eye out a little bit. It will have pulled it tight when you weave those ends in. And then you can pull those two ends tight and cut them off. And there we have finished our first eye, and you want to do another one along a few stitches on the same row, and then you can add the nose. So to add the nose, you want to go back in with your yarn needle and another scrap of yarn, and you want to make this scrap of yarn just a little bit longer. So we are going to do a triangle nose with a little line. So to start this nose, we're going to start off by making this point here on the right. So you want to come in and then come out where you want that point to start. So you're coming out where you want this point here to start. So come out there, and then you want to go across a few stitches and go in where you want this point to be on the opposite side. So I'm going to go across a few stitches, and it kind of helps to turn your work upside down, and go in where I want that opposite point to be. And then you want to come out where you want this bottom point to be at the bottom of the triangle. So I want this bottom point to be around about here. So I'm going to come out there and then pull this yarn through and make sure that this end isn't coming out. And then you want to go underneath this line and pull it through. And there we have our triangle. And now you want to go down a few stitches to make the line. And then you can weave that end into the inside, and we have finished the face. And once you have done that, we have finished our bunny rabbit. And now the last thing that you want to do, once you have weaved all of your ends nice and securely into the inside, is make the little outfits. So here Ruthie has on this cute little dress with a button on the back which needs to be done up. And then Ralph has on these cute little shorts with this little jacket. So I have lots of different outfits that fit any of the animals in my Crochet Animal series. So these outfits that they have on here will fit any of the animals, and I will leave links to all of those tutorials, so the tutorials for all of the different outfits, in the description box below this video. So if you want to learn where to make this dress, these shorts and this top, then have a look in the description box below and you will see a link to the tutorial for those videos. But there are links to lots of different outfits, so I have a few different dresses and some cute little dungarees which would fit them as well. And if you have the written pattern for these rabbits, then the written pattern for this dress, these shorts and this top can be found in the written pattern at the end. And there we have finished our rabbits. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it easy to follow. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more crochet videos. And in the description box below this video, I will leave a link to where you can find the written pattern for these rabbits. And I will also leave a link in the description box to my Instagram and Twitter accounts. So I always like to post updates and pictures on there, especially Instagram. And I would love to see photos of your crochet work on there as well. So if you make Ruthie and Ralph, please share a photo. I'd really love to see it. And thank you again for watching. Bye.